I might throw that spinnerbait in here. So what's your single biggest expense as a bass pro? What's your biggest cash outlay line item per year?
I would say fuel. Yeah,
Fuel.
for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Both in the truck and boat, but and at this point it's just travel in general, because what I end up doing a lot is I fly. Living out west, I'm never close to the tournament venues. So
Right.
it doesn't really cost me any more to fly, but it saves me a lot of time. So I'll just drive my boat to wherever the next tournament's gonna be at, park it at a friend's house or at a dealership, and jump on a plane to get home. But yeah, just travel expense by far.
Gotcha. Okay. So travel expenses overall, and without getting too personal, can you give me some idea of how much you spend on travel a year? Do you have any idea?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, you know, every tournament, depending on the scenario, you could usually budget at least $2,000 for your travel and fuel expenses and lodging expenses and stuff like that. So you just multiply it by how many tournaments you're going to be fishing. 2,000. Sometimes you get away with 1,000. Sometimes it's going to cost you 3,000.
Got that one. That's a good one
that's a
too.
good one, dude.
Come out of there.
That's a good one.
On the spinnerbait. Come out of there. He got me in there, but I got him on the big braid. I got him on the big braid, so.
Let's get in there.
All right, I'm gonna hold him right there.
I'll
just hold him right there. I'm just gonna hold him right there. That's a good one. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Good job, dude.
Uh-huh. Spinnerbait, spinnerbait, spinnerbait. That's the big veracity right there, guys, and the big braid. It's a 65-pound braid on there, actually. We'll set that down.
You never lost confidence once he was pinned. You're like, it's cool, I got him on braid. It's all good.
Nice, got him on the goat rope. That's a good one right there, guys. And you just said that, and that's just where you just said a minute ago.
I might have just missed
He's
that
like, I got
fish.
bumped right there, and as we got around, I got a lane, I threw it through there and stuck him. Yeah, see, every time we get around an actual touring pro, one thing you can count on is that they can put their bait wherever they need to put it over and over and over again like that. And if you haven't thrown a bait caster a lot, that's way trickier than it looks to make that bait slide all the way back in there. But I've never been around a pro that's done anywhere near the success that you've already had. You almost won Angler of the Year and won a highest level tournament. I haven't been around any of those guys that can't do that. So conversely, I've fished a gajillion club tournaments, and I've never been around very many club guys that can, at least in the West. So that's an important thing.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, it is. It just makes you more efficient, and it might be the difference. And there's guys that are a lot better than me, but if you can be proficient at skipping from all different angles, pitching from all different angles, you're going to catch. That's the difference between catching 4 fish and 6 fish.
Right.
And that's a big difference, man.
That's a giant
when it's over and over and
difference.
over every day.
Yeah, and over the course of a season, that adds up to a lot of money.
100%.
You know, as far as that goes. So let's talk a little bit about the formats. You've fished under all of the different formats, right?
Yeah, actually, pretty much.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the formats here. What do you prefer, a 5-fish, just for, if you could make the same money and all other things being equal, would you do a 5-fish weight tournament, or would you do an MLF style, they all count, everything over a pound counts, blah, blah, blah?
That's a good question. And if you ask me on different days, you probably would get different answers.
Okay.
And I'll just be honest, man, I just love fishing, bass fishing. So, with that being said, I happily fish them all. It's fun to target big fish. There's no question about it, and I like to do that. But it's also fun to catch a lot of fish. And really the biggest thing with Major League Fishing, is that a fish going after your bait?
No, it was the other way around.
Okay.
It was a shad that I hit that took off and ran from the bait.
But really the biggest thing that I love about it, the format that we're fishing right now in Major League Fishing, is how good it is for the fish. I mean, it's so nice to be able to catch a fish,
Right.
let it go right where it came from.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I've already seen it in some of our tournaments in this first year I fished. I've come in behind other boats and caught fish that have been caught already.
Yeah.
It's pretty special. That
I like it, especially around the spawn situation where you're not pulling spawners and moving them all to a whole other end of the lake. I love that as well. And we here at Fishful Thinker Television are huge. I mean, we are fish care gorillas.
You are, yep.
We do not want to hurt fish. That's the last thing we want to do, unless we're going to eat them, at which point we want to kill them and fillet them as fast as possible. But if you're gonna get pictures and let them go, then you need to do so responsibly and understand that they can't breathe You know, they can't breathe above water, and if you squeeze them, they're gonna die. They're not gonna die right then. The line I hate the most, oh, she swam off strong. I hate that line because more fish die of delayed mortality than anything else. You know,
That's a good point, really good point.
You know, they
actually.
die an hour later. They swam off strong, and then they rolled over an hour later and died, you know? So
That's a good point.
That needs to be considered. Every time somebody tells me, oh, she swam off strong, you're making an excuse for the fact that you know you had her out of the water too long.
Interesting.
Okay, you travel, you told me earlier, so I have this knowledge. You travel with 4 guys, basically. And how much do you feel like share information, or how much does that go on? Because it's not legal for you to get outside information, but you can share information with a competitor, correct?
You can up until the tournament now. And you know what? We used to do it a lot.
Oh yeah, because during the tournament you guys fish different days now.
Exactly, yeah. So last year, I mean, I was pretty fortunate. I had some friends that fished the tour, and we all trusted each other, and we help each other anytime we can. Now the rules are a little bit different. We can talk before the tournament starts, and we can go over strategies and what we may think may unfold. But as soon as we get out there and practice and start casting, that's over with.
Gotcha.
So yeah, it's every man for himself nowadays, man.
Huh.
You know, honestly,
But do you think on the other, you don't fish bass anymore, but on the bass circuit, which is what I grew up watching and still watch to these days,
for
but
sure.
on the Elite Series, those guys are still doing the same basic concept on that, right?
Absolutely, and if you can't, you want to be able to find fish yourself. Ultimately, it's going to make you better.
Sure.
But if you learn from each other, right? So through all the years of sharing information with my good buddies, I learned their styles. I learned some of the things that worked for them, and it's helped me a ton. It's made me a much better fisherman. So of course, if you can network and you know, gain some knowledge from others, I completely recommend it. But don't let it become your crutch.
Don't rely on it. Right. Yeah, we'll talk, even with my guys. I mean, we run a guide, but even with my guides, we'll talk about maybe locations, but also how to get fish to bite. You know, we might be around the same school of fish, but I can't get them to bite, you know, and somebody's got a trick figured out, you know, that's got them biting better than average, or a way that's catching larger than average fish, or something like that. But you can learn nuances that way. Conversely, how important is it cost-wise for you to travel with people? Like, let's say you can't share any knowledge. You traveling with 4 guys has got to make it a little more affordable.
Oh yeah, you know, more affordable and more fun, right? You know, you're cutting down on that, and then you're not alone, man. It's no fun to be on the road by yourself all the time.
I know, yeah.
It's nice to be able to go back to the house and have dinner with your buddies and talk a little trash to each other.
Yeah, I would talk some trash about this right now when he's got his stuff in the tree right here. I would never have done anything like that.
You're like, dude, just tie on a spinnerbait.
I don't know what your problem is. How many rods do you carry on an average tournament day, on, let's say, in the beginning of a tournament? Not one that you're dialed and you know you're going to drop shot all day.
I'm spoiled on that one, man. I mean, I've got 25 rods probably with reels rigged up and ready to go. And maybe a couple extras in case I step on one or slam it in a rod locker or whatever.
So how much harder is it to catch fish when the camera's around?
That's a really good question, and it definitely seems like it adds pressure. And if I could look back, you try to not let it bother you, and you live your life on camera, Chad.
Yep.
Dude, there have been many times where the camera boat, whether it's a live camera or even a photographer, they're on you, and they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they're waiting, and they're waiting, and you're trying so hard, and then they leave.
Yep.
And then you start catching fish.
And then you catch them, yeah.
And sometimes it's a coincidence, but you gotta think, sometimes it's not.
Some of it's your concentration.
100%.
I tell a lot of people tell me, oh, I fish better than you, da. Well, you probably do. There's a lot of people that fish better than me, but can you fish and talk at the same time? That's the biggest thing. Can you conduct a conversation and address the camera and talk at the same time while you fish? That's the hard part. What I do, the hardest part of my job is not the catching fish. It's being able to communicate while I'm catching fish.
That makes sense. That's not an easy
If you're at
job,
home thinking you catch more fish than me, good on you. You probably do, and we should go fishing more because I'd love to learn from you. So we're watching you pitch along here. Do you have any kind of guidelines you use for how long you let a Texas rig or a jig and pig sit on the bottom? Do you hop it a bunch? What's your standard? Do you have a standard?
That's a good question. I don't have like a necessary time standard. I will say that you have to just look at the situation and just use your head and use common sense, right? So if it's winter time and you're fishing down in Florida and you're punching through a grass mat, you're fishing for Florida strain fish and the water's 55 degrees, you're going to want to leave your bait in there for a while.
Give them a
them
chance to eat it.
Get it.
Right.
On a situation like this where these fish are keying in on shad and they're high up in the trees, I'm not letting it sit on the bottom at all. I'll let it get to the bottom.
Right.
And once it gets to the bottom, I'll kind of swim it out of the tree. And a lot of times you'll even get an extra chance at a bite as you're swimming it out.
Yeah,
Happens
exactly.
a lot.
Yeah, almost swim jigging it.
Yes, exactly. It's almost 2 casts. Your first cast is a flip, and then you're going to swim jig it on out of there.
Yeah, I can see that.
But yeah, you're just going to look at the activity level of the fish, and same with going to, choose a size weight. The more aggressive you think the fish are, and the better they can see it, the faster you want it falling. Clean water, clear water, you want it falling fast to look natural. And dirty water, you want it falling slow so they can find it.
Okay, people think about a bass, a touring pro bass fisherman. They think, oh, they just cruise around and fish. But what does your job generally otherwise entail, day in and day out?
So,
because you're only fishing 8 tournaments or 10 tournaments a year.
Yeah, we talked earlier about just kind of the off the water hustle, and it could be a lot of different things. If you just fish your 8-10 tournaments and then don't do anything else, first off, you're not doing your sponsors justice, you're not doing yourself justice.
Right.
So there are different hustles to do. Like, for me, I do some guiding. I do a lot of stuff for my sponsors. I've got 10 or 12 sponsors.
How much time do you spend on social media stuff?
Social media is obviously huge. It's a really easy way to stay in touch with friends and family and fans and followers of the sport, and it's a really easy way for your sponsors to keep track of you too. It's a quick way to say, oh, they can jump on there and say, what's Josh been doing for us lately? And if they see it on social media, it's real easy. So super important. That should be one of your top priorities. On the marketing side, I'm not saying it should be one of your top priorities in life. And
no. But for being the pro side of being a pro involves, let's just be dead candid. You need exposure for your sponsors, period, or there is no point in them paying you. And there was a time when putting a patch on your shirt and a sticker on your boat and you were good. These days, there's 14-year-old kids with bigger social media followings than some of the biggest bass pros in the sport. And that's not saying it's productive social media, but the point being they can still reach as many people as you can,
Oh yeah.
And that's important. And I'm an old guy, make no mistake, my social media, I'm the old guy in the group. So, ooh, look at that big lay down right there.
Juicy, isn't it? No, I pay a lot of attention to it, man. And I've probably made 1,000 posts on my Instagram over the last several years, and I'm always, looking for new avenues and new...
Well, you do a podcast. That's new for you, right? Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning that, man. Yeah, that's a deal. I'm a huge podcast fan. I just love listening to them. Again, we've talked about how much we drive, but,
right.
Even when you're cooking or when you're, just doing work around the house or whatever, it's something you can flip on and not be bored. So we started that, and it's another way to have fun and hang out with my buddies, but it's also a platform to promote my sponsors, which is a huge deal.
Oh, come on, right in there.
Plug and nice cast.
Yeah.
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah, so for people that haven't heard your podcast, myself included, to be candid, what's it called?
It is Angler's Happy Hour. That's what we decided to call it, just because we keep it very light, We definitely talk some technical fishing, but we had Justin Lucas on a couple weeks ago talking about a time where he got bed bugs in a hotel. And,
we were going to talk about what I caught in a hotel.
Well, dude, we do want to talk about that. That's what it's all about. But yeah, Angler's Happy Hour, and
Angler's Happy
we
Hour.
keep it very light.